Abdul Rahman Sahib, please.
Huzur, in Surah Fajr, وَلَيَالٍ عَشْرٍ is mentioned. What is meant by these 10 nights?
Again, you have reminded me of great tafsir of these by Hazrat Muslim. And also I have my own interpretation of these great verses. They're not exactly the same, but of course they relate to the events of the future in relation to these three. What those three means, they are in action, then 2 and 1. What does it mean? Hazrat Muslim Maud's interpretation relates it to future events like mine does, but in a different style and different way. I believe that the first Fajr is the year of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's prophecy. That was the first Fajr which continued till the first generation after him. And then came 2 more generations which have been predicted by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as Summa Lazina Yulunahum, Summa Lazina Yulunahum. Then come the 10 dark nights where light of Islam is withdrawn except for that which simmers from the heaven, from the stars, etc. Is shed from the stars, not from the sun or moon. Then after the 13 centuries are over, then would rise that moon, which is Badr Kamil, which is prophesied in Islam to be the Messiah or the Mahdi. So that is in short how I interpreted it. Hazrat Muslim has interpreted it, dividing it into the first 13 years of Nabuwah first. 3 years and 10 make 13. You remember how he has developed it? Here it would be mentioned perhaps. Because all the English commentaries which have been published by Jamaat Ahmediyya, written by any scholar, owe themselves to Hazrat Muslim Maud's tafsir. So whatever is written here, it is not the work of the author of this, it is the work of Hazrat Muslim Maud from which he has generously, borrowed.
In one place it says, 10 nights may represent the last 10 dark years of severe persecution to which Muslims were subjected at Mecca.
That's right.
Or the 10 centuries of the decline and the decadence of the Muslim before the advent of the promised Messiah.
That's right. So these, they have been influences of Hazrat Muslim Maud. But I remember when I read his commentary, of course it was a fantastic thing. You have to read it and you get enlightened. But my mathematical working I found was different from his, and both are valid, because in such numbers, the very purpose of not defining them is to widen the sphere of interpretation and open the various possibilities. So as I used to see that, I have just told you, but that is in brief. What have you discovered?
An implied reference to these 10 nights or the 10 centuries of the decline of Islam is also to be found elsewhere in the Holy Quran. These 10 centuries or 1,000 years of the moral decadence of Muslims came after the first centuries of the heyday of their glory and grandeur, which have been called the best 3 centuries of Islam by the Holy Prophet.
That is what I inferred on my own as well. But the first part, which I mentioned earlier, has not been developed here further, but Muslim Maud has developed it to the full. The first years after Nabuwah were different, then follow the 10 nights in the sense of nights of persecution, which is very fair. Then broke the day of Hijrah, and so on and so forth. So it's worthy of very of study. And please, see, personally I have some areas to investigate further, because it is very attractive to say that the first three centuries and then the night of 1,000 years. It's understandable, because when we look back at the history of Islam, particularly in the light of the prophecy of Muhammad ﷺ that there will be 3 generations, it seems quite convincing. But there are problems. Why mention Al-Fajr first, and then 10 nights, then Washafi wal Watre? And Watr, if it is the first the year of, or the first century of Muhammad ﷺ, why is it mentioned in the very end? Why Shafa first and then Watr? So in general one begins to see the meaning in the light of the history of Islam as it unfolded itself. But there is more to it than that. This significance has to be fully understood. This has to be further deciphered. So I still have some views in my mind to pursue, but I'm not yet ready. I want to re-examine this whole surah in the light of the problem which I have just mentioned. And unless I find a deeply satisfying answer myself, I can't permit myself to opine on this in detail when I'm not fully satisfied myself. But in general, what I have said has also been covered by Hazrat Muslim. So I have no doubt that this is covered, but there is more to it than that. The riddle is not yet over. Right?